technology. Are there any comments on that? In this session, I want to not just talk for 1.5 hours, but really get some input, some insights from your side. So let's have some quick comments there. Human orientation, technology orientation, or techno-human orientation, which is more appropriate for South Africa?
May I try?
Yes, please.
All right, thank you. I think from where one is sitting, looking at the level of development in the country, we would still have to take human beings along in order for them to own up to the opportunities presented by technology, as opposed to seeing it as a threat. In that it would be important in the different aspects now of their lives, because it's not just about computers that you would have, but it also affects how you are going to run the health system, the transport system, which is where human beings are actually participants, which therefore calls for the skills that are needed for human beings to respond to those benefits that technology brings. That will be my attempt to clarify how I understand it. Thank you, Prof.
Okay. So we thanks, Chair. So we do see in this statement from the Presidential Commission on the 4IR report, they say the task of this commission is to propose a 4IR strategy for the country, which is about outlining and building the industrial capacity to effectively incorporate emerging technologies into production processes and value chains. So that's their primary issue. Then they say, not only this, but these technologies can assist in addressing perennial human and social development challenges. Now, what I don't understand is why they distinguish between this environment, the industrial environment, and this environment, the so-called social environment. Because in reality, the human beings here are very important, and the technology here is very important. So that is clear. They accept that the technology is important in this environment. But if you read this, they don't seem to appreciate that humans are important in the industrial environment. And that's very worrying. Not because we must just, sustain jobs for the sake of sustaining jobs, but for a very different reason. For the reason that what we need in South African industry is highly advanced human jobs, but for to operate highly advanced technology. And for me, we're not going to look at the PC4IR report in detail today. I would like you to invite me back next year for us to look into that report in more detail. But I would be very keen to explore this question about whether the PC4IR report really understands the role of humans in industry. Now, this is going to emerge in the course of some of our discussion today, because you cannot have what the PC4IR is asking for. Let me just move something quickly. Just 1 second. I need to just swap things around. Forward. Oh, come on. Let's do that. There we are. So now we look at this diagram here, which you can see is very tech intensive. And a crucial issue here when it comes to robotics. So this is from the Department of Trade and Industry. Artificial intelligence and robotics. The description says development of machines that can substitute for humans. This is not the reality that we are talking about today. Today we are talking about Industry 5.0. And the meaning of Industry 5.0 is that humans and machines work together, they work alongside each other, they collaborate. They do not substitute. Machines do not substitute for humans. They collaborate with humans. And so this is a 4IR strategy that is behind the times because we are already talking about Industry 5.0. So we have to be cautious about jumping onto a World Economic Forum bandwagon, which is really not interested in us. We seem to be more interested in them than they are in us. And I just wish us to observe some caution there. But we'll discuss that when we look at the PC4IR report in detail. I want to mention a few other things. In this interconnected economy, we see not only digitalization, but also, and I'm looking at this section here, energy capture, storage, and transmission. It doesn't really tell us much of the story. This is quite old and out of date now. We are already talking about virtual power plants. Is anybody familiar with the idea of a virtual power plant?
No, Prof.
So to be honest with you, I only just came across it recently. And I was so happy that I came across it because I thought, oh, now I can bring something new into our discussions and I don't just have to ramble on about digital all the time. But a virtual power plant is constructed by households having batteries. So the households have these, quite sophisticated contemporary batteries like the ones made by Tesla. And for each household, those batteries are connected. So let's say in a particular residential area, whether it's on the East Rand or Khayelitsha or Limpopo, somewhere in Limpopo province, or perhaps in a more peri-urban or rural environment, each of the households has a power plant, and these power plants are connected to each other, maybe by some form of sensor. And what that means is that all these batteries connected together create a virtual power plant. So the power plant is not, like an Eskom power plant, somewhere in a huge power plant generating power. This is a different form and very interesting and advanced form of power generation using connected batteries with some digital sensing, maybe Internet of Things involved. So the opportunities for real innovation to solve problems as they refer to in the PC4IR report, problems like power supply, we begin to see very interesting opportunities. But the problem is that South Africa is very far away from this reality of tech-focused innovation. And when I was preparing for our session today, I thought you know, what parliamentary committees really need, not just this committee, but all committees, is a kind of a map of the future. We know what history looks like. We have a relatively good idea of what the present looks like. What we don't have in Parliament is a map of the future. Then many of these issues, cobotics, collaborative robotics is called cobotics in short, virtual power plants, and many other issues could be on that map. And members of Parliament and parliamentary committees could see that future, so that, I mean, by see, I mean visualize. You can visualize that future, so that when you have all these agencies coming to present to you, you can really find out if they are operating in that future, if they are leading South Africa to that reality of techno-human. Let me change that immediately. See, that's the beautiful thing, is we can just change it. I'm going to change that and say techno-human innovation. That is what we want. So I'm not sure what you think of this idea of a map of the future for Parliament. We can come back to that maybe once we've looked into a little bit more detail. But Chair, please do remind me before we end, let us talk about this map of the future. Because you see, Parliament is being told that all this must happen, it's going to happen, here's the policy. But how does Parliament really follow and have oversight over the evolution of that future without its own map? So another point I wanted to make is that there is a good fit, this correlation between the PC4IR report and the digital economy strategy. And this is a crucial part of the current thinking about the digital economy strategy. Now, I think we all know about STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. But even that has changed, and we now talk about STEAMy, science, technology, engineering, arts, mathematics, innovation, and entrepreneurship. So where we said that STEM was the foundation of innovation for the economy and society, we now say, well, it's not just STEM, it's STEAMy. If you don't have arts, creativity, and entrepreneurship, you're in big trouble. And this diagram just gives us a sense of the foundations that we need, the human foundations that we need. Because if we take 3 prime areas of scientific activity where you need the arts and the entrepreneurship as well, of course, they are material science and additive manufacturing. I'll show some diagrams of that. IoT, cloud and network engineering, data science, analytics, and AI. And if you want to be a country, an economy that uses material science and additive manufacturing, then you need to be able to do all of this. Mechanical engineering, industrial engineering, advanced manufacturing, smart manufacturing. If you want to do IoT and cloud, where a lot of business now is hosted in the cloud, then you need computer science and all these other aspects of engineering. If you want to do data science and analytics so that you can do effective data collection and analytics for COVID-19, for managing the COVID-19 pandemic, Then you need statistics, physics, maths, and computer science. And for all of these, you need languages and design thinking skills. Now, what this means is that this is what we should be teaching in school now. In school. This is not something where you teach these subjects at school, languages, stats, physics, maths, you teach those things at school, and then you wait until you get to the TVET or the university to teach these things. That will put South Africa seriously behind the global curve on digital skills. So the foundations of all of this need to be taught in schools. And that points to the importance that we spoke about, I think, 2 sessions ago, that all parliamentary committees, or rather parliamentary committees, need to work hand in hand. They need to collaborate with each other, because this is an interest. This shift is an interest, should be an interest for this committee, also for the Education Committee, also for the Social Sciences Committee, is dealing with social science, with trade and industry, with health. So many committees in Parliament would have an interest in seeing these skills evolve in the schooling system and in the industry, in the factory system, amongst workers. So that was just really a short intro to— It's 19 hours. A short intro to the more detailed discussion on the digital skills implementation program, where we're going to look at five elements or 5 initiatives, all of which require different parliamentary committees to pay attention to digital skills, but where the Portfolio Committee on Digital Communications and Digital Technologies is interested in everything. So the committees responsible for education may be more interested in digital foundations and intermediate and advanced digital skills. The Committee on Trade and Industry may be more interested in Industry 4.0. The committees on public finance may be more interested in knowledge and resourcing. But sorry, I've got to get this right. PDCDT, is that correct? I was told that the committee's name is changing or changed. Can you guide me on this?
The committee, no, you mean this committee?
Yes.
Prof. No, it's still communications. The difference is the department, but the portfolio itself remains the same.
Remains
the department.
Same. I think somebody wants you to change your name.
No, it's only the measure of DTPS and DOC to form DCDT as a department, but the portfolio committee is still the same.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, one day your name might change. But anyway, as you say, so the PCC will be interested in all of this. Let me pause there for a moment. We've been talking for about half an hour. Let me pause there for a moment and ask if there are any points of discussion that you have on what we've been talking about up to now.
I can try.
Yes, please, Honorary Princess Faku.
Thanks, Prof. I think first, myself, we are saying that we're moving towards the digital economy. But I still feel that I feel that other departments don't really understand what we mean.
Mm.
Some feel it's the responsibility of the Department of Communication and Digital Technologies. I don't know why is that understanding. Perhaps the integration that is needed, you can't see it in all departments. That is my first point. And I think the other point that we have raised, Prof, is because I think that really want to look at other countries in terms of when we define the fourth industrial revolution. We are a developing country, so we are not as advanced maybe as China, as UK. That is my opinion. This issue that you are saying, that because humans must not feel they are threatened by technology. And I think we are raising a critical point to say there must be collaboration between the two. Because I don't believe that when you have to transform or you want to come up with innovative ideas or so, you must just forget about other. I think we're jumping the steps as I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I feel that we're jumping the steps. Some of us think in advance, like the Department of Communication and Technologies, and other departments don't think so. Like I will make an example with South African Police Services. You don't see them, they need the new technologies. You would see that currently, I will make an example, the issue of the DNA forensic labs. They're still using the old system. They don't have advanced system. Like they use manual. They don't have advanced technology to assist, whereby the human and the technology can be combined and have the end result. You will see even sometimes if DNA results are needed, people must wait for 2 years or so. Yeah. And sometimes that is why we have a rise. So I feel that there is not, people don't understand what the other person is doing. And as you are saying that we need to have a map of the future. For us to have that, we need to be on par.
So what will we do about that? How do we make that change? We can't just lament that it is not.
Yeah. I think first, like now, Akiri, there's a draft of the white paper. Is it the draft of the white paper, Chair, that we were just, there's a draft of the new policy that talks about more, even the department itself, like Centec sometimes does not fully understand what ICASA is thinking for the future. The same as the SABC, the same as USAS and USEF. So I think there must be also coordination within the department. And when they have to, our role must be make sure that first the department is in order in terms of coordinating themselves in understanding what is really needed before we can convince other departments what we seek to achieve. I don't know in cabinet, I've heard President speaking about this. I don't know if maybe the ministers really understand when we talk about digital economy. I think also as a committee, we must have the responsibility to as you are explaining, because some things for us, the sector is new. Some of us have never been in this sector before. So I'm saying you are giving us ideas so that we can have a discussion to say we need to have a round table with all these stakeholders, because at the end of the day, they are depending on us in terms of technology and as we move towards the fourth industrial revolution. So I think there must be a policy framework that will make sure that there's integration within government, but also the department to coordinate it. Thanks, Chair. I'm not sure if I'm right.
Anyone else want to contribute?
Yes, Prof, I had raised my hand also.
Go ahead.
Okay. I think for me, some of the points, of course, Honorable Faku spoke to them. But I think from what you've presented thus far, what I also pick up is that the language used is important in determining acceptability by people in moving forward, because you will also be aware that even before, when concepts like globalization and so on came in, then the technology and so forth, like any change that is brought in society, it also brings with it fears of the unknown, especially as it relates to those that are workers.
Yes.
That the real fear is to lose jobs to machines.
Yes.
Now, if it's in the documents that the purpose is to introduce machines that can substitute human beings. I'm just saying it's language. It can determine acceptability of what is being introduced, when in fact it is about also enhancing the quality of life of people by reaping the benefits of technology in different aspects where they can relate to. So I just thought that's one issue. Second point really is that you've just pointed out, I know you said you'll still come back, maybe the committee will have to work on that to unpack the FIR strategy issue. Now, but my worry was that just I think the few slides you were presenting on the levels of the digital skills that would be the focus. That you are still also there referring to Industry 4.0 when you are saying, in fact, the move is Industry 5.0, so we may be behind. Is this matter able to be maybe rectified as you are working on the implementation strategy of, the implementation plan of the digital skills strategy, so that again we do not think that we are making advances when we are still behind. Even when we are introducing it for the first time, we introduce it from a point of being behind, and then we'll try and catch up, right? And I think where the problem is that because those skills will be driven by government in the main, like you are saying, in an integrated fashion into the education system and so on. But you'll then find that industry in its own way of working, in keeping your business relevant, you will always want to source skills that make you to compete, especially because the world is just one place now as people compete, which will mean that you may be producing people that belong to another age, if I were to put it in that way, and then forcing industry to still source out skills from other spaces where there's been that advancement, losing therefore the opportunity presented by the adoption of a blueprint, because it is a bit behind compared to how the world is advancing. So I just thought one should raise that so that as you work at implementation, I heard you said there are quite complexities involved there, and you would need to be thorough. But maybe this is one area to address, as I say, including the language to make it also more acceptable to the people. So those are my points for now, based on what you've presented thus far. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Any other comments?
Yes, Lucy. Morning, colleagues and honorable members.
Evening, Mbombo.
Yes, it's still morning for me. My mind is still working backwards. But I thought that I should echo the sentiments from the Honorable Member Faku that, there seems to be quite a need for leadership in terms of the department being also consistent in implementing policy. Because I think if you really look at the recent past, there hasn't been that commitment from the government to implement and take leadership in driving the implementation part of policy. And I think I'd like to make reference to, for instance, countries that were ravaged during the Second World War and see how they quickly were able to develop policy and implement. And you see them now 30 years, 40 years later, and where they've developed to. But I thought that I should also add that one of the fundamental problems in the South African arena has been the issue around institutional arrangements, because also you get a lot of turf wars from departments wanting to, get sole rights towards a particular policy of some sort. And I think that, for the digital era, we need to think in a more innovative way of dealing with how policies are developed and handled and who leads in those policy implementations. And that's all I had to say.
Yeah. So quite a few issues have been raised. Let me try to deal with each one. First, from Honorable Princess Faku, is the challenge that it would appear that many departments and even portfolio committees and select committees are not really clued up on the future economy. Let's say the future economy. We don't have to attach a label to it. And perhaps, and there was the idea of a roundtable, a parliamentary roundtable. I think that's a very interesting idea, and one that this committee chairperson, you may wish to explore with members. I've realized that you have a lot of activity, you have a very full program every morning of the week, and you're having presentations from different entities. But perhaps some time could be set aside for interactive sessions within Parliament. I mean, I know you have interactive sessions, but then they're on different issues, it's the medium-term budget or, things that are common, but they aren't necessarily regular, let's say once a month sessions where there is a roundtable convened on the PC4IR report, or a roundtable is convened on the digital skills strategy, or on the connection or lack of connection between the two, or some specific topic that is crucial to the South African economy. And I'm wondering whether that is not something that needs to be put on the agenda for 2021. So let me just leave that with you. That arises, I think, from Honorable Faku's comment. Then, comes the issue of the way ideas are presented to the South African public. And as the chairperson says, if the key policy documents and key statements of government are badly framed, and it sounds as if the intention or the idea is that, and I don't want to mention robots in particular, but that technology is better than humans, that would be really unfortunate. Because it could create the kind of situation that we are seeing in the US now, where they are destroying their own economy because they are because they are scared. They are scared of diversity. So because we are scared of diversity, let's destroy ourselves. We can do that. The fact that we have emerged from apartheid and that we are better than we were under apartheid doesn't mean we can't go backwards. You know, if we adopt the wrong approaches and people say, well, if technology is going to take over, then we don't want technology. And if that happens, we will destroy the South African economy, because the South African economy needs people and technology. And we can't say that this won't happen. Who would have thought that the American economy would destroy itself? And there they are in the process of destroying themselves. So care needs to be taken, caution needs to be observed. The third point, well, also from Honorable Chairperson, is the matter, and partly also from Mbombo, is the matter of the organizations within or that report to the entities that report to the DTPS. I'm going to mention just 3 entities, and I'm going to give you a scenario, okay? For the purposes of this discussion, this is a scenario. It's not real, it's a scenario. So there is Broadband Infraco, there is CETA, and there is Centec, all reporting to DTPS. Now, the theory is that Broadband Infraco and Centec must merge. What is the reality of this scenario? So in this scenario, Broadband Infraco provides backbone connectivity. Centec, in theory, should provide further connectivity. I'll just say further connectivity because it's not defined. In other words, not backbone. That's what Broadband Infraco is doing. But Centec is not that kind of an organization. It's in transition. It's not a connectivity provider. It's not an internet connectivity provider. It doesn't have the history, the resources, the capital, the culture, the skills to do what is envisaged, not right now. So it has to transition into that position so that when BBI and Centec merge, they can be a powerful connectivity provider to the public sector. But there's more to the scenario. CETA, historically, and in terms of the CETA legislation, occupies a very strong position to provide connectivity for government. So in this scenario, Broadband Infraco and Centec are not simply in competition with CETA, or CETA is in competition with that potential merger. One is going to destroy the other, possibly. One is going to prevent another from achieving that goal, because the structure, the organization, the culture, the legislation potentially puts them as competitors against each other. This is a scrambled egg. How do we unscramble that egg? To get value for the money, for the taxpayers' money, and benefit for schools, clinics that have little or no or poor or inconsistent internet connectivity. So I'm just painting that scenario. We don't have to discuss it. I'm just putting it out there in response to the chair and Mbombo's comments, and also Honorable Falco's comments about some few parts of our public sector operation, government operation, parliamentary operation appear to understand the complexity of all these interactions that are happening on a daily basis and where that takes us. Remember this scenario. Please remember this scenario. It's a scenario that may have a few aspects of reality and may need some attention to resolve the inconsistencies, the difficulties, the challenges inherent in that scenario. So there's a lot of work for 2021. So let us now move on. I'm hoping that some of what we discuss will enable you to continue asking the difficult questions that I've heard you ask this year when organizations come and present to you, when entities come and present to you. So let us move now off those early initial comments. I'm going to move through this just to say that the digital skills strategy has 8 elements. What you're going to see is element 1, 2, 3, 4, and then these are put together. And I'm going to work through that quite quickly. So element 1, digital foundations, is basically what happens inside our schooling system. Because what happens inside our schooling system, where we are teaching in schools using digital technologies, we are teaching mathematics using these digital technologies, and we need improved maths results for us to use technology. All of that means that quite radical change is needed in the schooling system. The South African schooling system has run itself into the ground. I'm sure you'll agree that I'm not the first person or the only person who will say that. But the next steps are happening. The Department of Basic Education produced this document, very good document, excellent document, Professional Development Framework for Digital Learning, as a guide to teachers. What needs to happen is that teachers really need to, to learn from this guide. And of course, they can't just learn by reading it. There needs to be intensive development of teaching capacity. And so I just want to look at these measures. We talk about curriculum innovation, and we talk about building digital pedagogical competence of teachers, making it possible for teachers to use not just laptops. The laptop doesn't teach you anything. It's the software on the laptop where the learning is happening. And to be honest with you, I just came this afternoon between 4 o'clock and 4:45. I was teaching teachers in Saldanha Bay, but I'm in Joburg. I'm sitting in Joburg. I have 2 colleagues in Stellenbosch. I might have mentioned this before. The teachers were in a classroom in Saldanha Bay, and the course is now over. So they had to present their group assignment. 3 of them had to present their group assignment. And so they invited us to the session. They made their presentation showing us how to use dynamic software to teach a geometry lesson. And we gave them some feedback and asked them some questions. And this needs to be happening in every classroom after school, 48 weeks of the year, in order to build the digital pedagogical competence of teachers. I'll stop there for a minute. Yes, please go ahead. Any comments or?
No. Sorry, Prof. Just press the button by mistake. Sorry.
Okay. I was going to stop there anyway. You know, this is obviously very quick given the time we have available. I see it's already 7:30. And I just want to get to Industry 4.0 and youth not in employment. But what you see here is, and how does this relate to our topic for today, the role of parliamentary committees? Well, this is a demonstration that digital is not the preserve of the Parliamentary Committee on Communications or the Department of of Communications and Digital Technologies. But without this, without curriculum innovation and teachers who can really teach using software, we cannot build a digital economy. We can't. It is impossible. So the idea that only this committee should receive this presentation is an idea that we need to change. How do we, you know, do we have a session next year maybe where this committee invites only the education committees and we talk through these issues? I don't know. I'm just leaving it open. Should I carry on or do we want to pause for a moment? Any inputs?
Prof, I think, you know, this issue that we are raising is a very important issue. I think most teachers during the COVID-19, when the minister said that teachers must be trained on computer, people just felt, this thing is not going to work. But I think teachers are enjoying it. But I think we are raising a very important point. It's not only about computers, it's about understanding the software. I remember that there's a lady, I think in Nigeria, you know, when you understand this software, you can, it's easy even for our children who are slow learners and so forth to understand what they need to understand, especially in skills like your mathematics and science. Yes. So I think the idea that you are coming up with, it's good. I'm a bit worried when you are saying, but of course we're closing on the 3rd of December. But maybe because moving forward, I think sometimes we only act when something is like, you know, because I think we are still going to stay in this period where we are going to have virtual and so forth. But I think it's important, perhaps a chair must take note of it so that in our committee we propose that really we have a roundtable discussion like this with the Department of Education, higher education and basic education. I think that point is very important because if you start at the foundation level in correcting so that people understand the broader picture. Thanks, Chair.
Okay. So let me move, colleagues. I'll just take one quick comment each time because of time. The next strategy element is intermediate and advanced digital skills. So in other words, here we are talking about the TVET system and universities. And it was pointed out to us that we should also talk about the community education colleges, CET, but we're not doing that right this minute because CET is something that is quite new. So we're saying here in the post-school system, we need to put more effort, more attention to TVETs. TVETs are under-resourced They are actually currently changing the IT curriculum. But the IT curriculum in TVETs is going to need constant change every 2 years for the next 20 years to really be on par with what people need to learn in a TVET environment. People at TVETs need to be learning mechatronics. And the numbers, I'll just show you the numbers in mechatronics if I can find it. Here. 840 students in mechatronics, of which only 84 passed. And yet this is a major field where you design objects that have a mechanical component and an electronic component. So whatever used to be purely mechanical, you can make it digital. And yet in 2018, only 84 people passed mechatronics. So how then do we advance industry? How does industry, which is highly mechanized, become digitized? Let's think of agriculture. So you have lots of mechanical equipment in agriculture. But if we had lots of students passing mechatronics, they could be taking that equipment and refurbishing that equipment and making it digital with a longer lifespan. Any comments on that? I'm just giving these examples because we can't go into a huge amount of detail. So, massive changes required in the schooling system with respect to the skills of teachers, what learners learn in the curriculum. Massive changes required in the TVET system with respect to the digital competency of TVET learners and successful graduations passes in IT, mechatronics, and other areas. Scaling up in data science, IoT, and additive manufacturing. And we'll talk again about additive manufacturing. I'll show some pictures there because this is the future of industry, additive manufacturing. It is also the future of health because you can make, and I did mention this previously, you can make body parts. Currently, we wait for body parts made in Germany. Germany is where they do additive manufacturing. But additive manufacturing is not difficult, it's not hard, it's not complicated. In fact, it's easier because of the digital component. That whole thing we were talking about right at the beginning where we said digital is supposed to make innovation easier for humans. Well, it does. But if we don't learn and adopt and adapt, then all of that additive manufacturing will happen in Germany, not here. So here's an example. This is a mechanical machine, but these people are working on making it electronic. So that would be an example of mechatronics. You put sensors in, the sensors give you certain data, you analyze that data, and you say, oh, so this machine needs to be repaired now, not in 5 months' time, for example, okay? Before it breaks down, wear and tear. So I'm going on to Industry 4.0 and Industry 5.0. And these are some examples of additive manufacturing. You can have what they call vat polymerization. So you use liquid plastic to make prototypes or jewelry. Material jetting, so it's like a pen, and these droplets build up a particular design, computerized design. Sheet lamination, this is not somebody's head, it's a mask. It's just a very realistic mask. And in fact, my daughter was doing her final exam for drama, for theater directing. And she said, where can I need a mask very quickly. I need a mask to be 3D printed. And I said to her, go to Tsimologong Digital Technology Hub, speak to Alex, ask him to print the mask for you. And she waited for the mask and it was ready. And she paid, I don't know, maybe just over 1,000 Rand. And there was the mask ready for the theatrical production, the online theatrical production. So at the moment in South Africa, there are many universities and TVET colleges, TVET institutions involved in this additive manufacturing, right? Central University of Technology, Free State, Paarl University of Technology, Northwest University, Stellenbosch University, UCT, CSIR, University of Pretoria. But look how interesting it is that this is the one space where TVETs and universities are operating together in additive manufacturing for industry. Very interesting. Of course, digitalization is not only for industry, it is a large-scale industry, it is also for small business. And we can see here that in our small business environment, most of the active small business is, in very small, low-income environments. Personal services, trade, selling T-shirts, creches, some very simple construction. And when it comes to manufacturing or mining or utilities, very few small businesses. You see, their small businesses is the orange, medium businesses is the green, large businesses is the small. And large businesses dominate manufacturing, mining, utilities. But with 3D printing, with additive manufacturing, more small businesses can get into the market and expand the capacity of small and medium businesses to be active in manufacturing, even in mining. So this is what we need then. This is why we need these digital skills, so that more small businesses, Black, young, and women-led, can push this envelope so that large businesses do not dominate to quite the same extent that they have historically done so. And if we don't do this and we don't realize this, as you are saying, then we are condemning ourselves to racial inequality. Need I say that? We are actually making a reality, a future of continued race and gender inequality. How can we do that? We can't do that. So these are the reasons. Digital skills are not sexy. We're not doing it because Germany is doing it. We're not talking about Industry 4.0 and Industry 5.0 because Japan is doing it, or America's doing it, or China's doing it. We're doing it because we desperately need it. I mean, I don't know about you guys, I'm a little bit older, I think. I'm going to be retiring 5 years from now. I'm fighting, I'm doing my best to really say, can we please make sure that in the years that any of us have left before retirement, we ensure a different future for young South Africans. So these are the kind of measures that we are talking about at an industry level. So moving on, this will be my last point. Young people not in employment, education, and training. They are a very large number. We know that our current expanded unemployment rate is 9.2 million. 9.2 million people were unemployed in the fourth quarter of 2017. Not a nice number. I know that was 2017. Is it better or worse now? We would have to look at the statistics for 2020. And given that there's a pandemic, we know that the statistics are worse. We know that. And of that number, about 8.5 million, there were 20.4 million young people aged between 15 and 34 years, according to Stats South Africa 2020. Sorry, there are, not there were, there are. About 8.5 million are not in employment, not in education, not in training. And if we are thinking, if we understand that in this transition to a digital economy, the challenge becomes greater, we could see that number growing. Because this is just young people not in employment, education, or training. But of these 20.4 million young people aged between 15 and 34, that's about 1/3 of the South African population. Very few of them are active in the so-called 4IR or 5IR industries. Chair, I think I'm going to stop there. Maybe end with a graphic. There are some programs. These are some of the programs. There's CEPA 1 million, Community Works Program, Presidential Youth Employment Initiative, and so on. There are a few business-led and civil society-led. But the fact that there are many government-led initiatives here, a few here and a few here, doesn't mean that there are a lot of people, young people, in these programs. There may be a lot of programs that require a lot of administration and eat up a lot of money for administration. Here, for example, the SETA skills programs, but are not really putting these 8.5 million young people into jobs or into the economy or into entrepreneurship. Chair, I end there. We have about 15 minutes just for open discussion. And
may I come? Okay.
Sorry, I hope that this presentation sort of reveals why it is so necessary that parliamentary committees, not one committee, many committees deal with this matter of the digital and future skills strategy. Sorry, thank you.
No, thanks. If I may just proceed to just say, probably, I'm not sure whether you'll do this as you close. Remember, you said we must park the roadmap for the future as we look at it from a parliament point of view. I think as it relates to the suggestions you've made, I think also the content advisors to the committee are noting it down, because what the committee seeks to do is to try and make the program in a way that empowers the committee in doing its work. Of course, I do know that at some point we wanted the 4IR Commission to come and brief the committee. I think it was in the first draft. And we're told that no, actually they will come and brief Parliament as a whole, which is good, because then it means it's a benefit of all committees. It may be something that we follow it up. Of course, one would also take advantage that amongst the members here, we also have Honorable Faku, who sits in the ICT Committee of Parliament, coordinated, I think, by the Deputy Speaker of Parliament. It may be something that we must explore, that sometimes being called by a committee, calling all other committees, it has got its own challenges given programs that committees have. But
Yes.
when it comes from the central point, it then brings all of us together and see ourselves as equal participants
Yes.
in the work that needs to happen. As I say, would look at those. But of course, maybe if I may just comment on the last point, you were talking to the stats that you are sharing and the programs that are there, whether it's SEPA 1 million and so on. I think as you look at the implementation plan, of course, also with all other training programs, because I think that's another problem you have in the state. Different entities doing training programs, some of them get to be similar, but all of them, there's something that gets to be missing sometimes. That if you put these people to a training program or public employment, what is the exit strategy so that the skills acquired can then be utilized?
Chair, I think you muted yourself.
Some of them, yes, they may not be in the schooling. Then you can train them for smaller jobs. I'm saying even in the ICT side, like your just your fitting and fixing stuff, which may be easy to train people and then graduate from that and do bigger things. Okay, so I'm just saying these are matters that we may want to explore, but they are better explored when all these committees begin to discuss under one roof, so that we know that the initiative of one committee has an impact to a number of committees, and if we're to work together, it will be better impact for society out there, and they can look back and say government is doing something that's impactful on the ground. But as I said, if in your closure you can also come back to that roadmap issue for the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Committee members, any other inputs, comments from your side as we wrap up our session? No further comments? All right then. So thank you, Chair, for reminding me to get back to the issue of the map. It's really just an idea that entered my head as I was thinking, how does, I've been attending, I know I haven't had the opportunity to attend many of the presentation sessions, but I did attend some. And I thought about, well, so on a regular basis, maybe once a quarter, I noticed even that sometimes a particular organization or a particular entity will come to present to the committee more than once on a particular issue. And then it will come back and present on a different issue, but it's the same entity. Or there are different entities coming to present, but really maybe they should be presenting together. So for example, I'm not aware, have Broadband Infraco, Centec and CETA ever presented to Parliament collectively?
They have not.
They should. They should. And the reason they should is that they should then explain how they collaborate. And if they don't collaborate, then the committee can challenge them on why they are failing to collaborate, because their failure to collaborate is not in the interest of South Africa. So that's just one example. There are many examples like that. We have to find them. And that could be part of such a map. Another part of the map would be how does the recommendations, the ideas in the PC4IR report, we are being promised something. In the digital skills strategy, we are being promised something. In the e-government strategy, we are being promised something. In the SA Connect strategy, we are being promised something. And I recall a question in one of these presentation sessions where I can't remember who the MP was, asked the department or the DCDT, why do you say in your report to Parliament, to the Parliamentary Committee, that you intend to do this and that in SA Connect? Why do you intend, given that SA Connect is now many years since its establishment, why are you still intending? Why are you not reporting more effectively what you have done? And I think there was a little bit of nervousness there. I don't know if members recall that. But it really struck me, and it bothered me, and I kept thinking about it. And I thought, yes, well, that's a problem because we don't have a map, you know, a map that says SA Connect, this is the timeline. This is what will happen by 2016, 2020, 2024, etc. And here is another map of the e-government strategy, and it's superimposed on the same map. And here is the PC4IR report, and it's superimposed on the same map. And here's the digital skills strategy. And all these promises, all these objectives, all these goals and objectives and activities and tasks are on one map that the PCC and other committees in Parliament can look at. And then Parliament will be able to really make an even better assessment, because it will say, it's now 2023. This is where we should be in terms of SA Connect, PC4IR, digital skills, e-government, digital government, digital health, e-learning, and we are not there. Can you explain to us, departments and entities, why we are not there? And also, when Parliament is able to convene as, and I know you won't do this all the time, sometimes it will just be one committee, one entity, or one department, but sometimes there will be a few committees collectively speaking to a few departments and entities. Well, then nobody can point fingers at anybody else. Nobody can say, no, it wasn't me, I didn't do it, you see, we're waiting for them. This is not about catching anybody. We don't want to catch people. It's not the objective of the exercise. The exercise is to encourage and mobilize. Now, this is a word we all know and love, isn't it? Mobilize. I spent a lot of time mobilizing workers when I was a trade unionist. I wasn't always an academic. So this would be a way to promote, encourage this kind of human collaboration that is so necessary for our development as a South African digital economy. Chair, thank you very much. Those are my few closing remarks about the map. We can come back to this in conversation with the content advisor early next year. And I'm hoping that we can plan a program maybe of 6 or 7 seminars for 2021 where we can continue this work. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, colleagues.
Thank you, Prof, and thanks to members who have joined, as well as the support staff and other guests that would have joined. Indeed, we'll take this forward as we plan for the program for 2021. Maybe in that discussion, we may also look at taking 1 or 2 programs and start mapping them out in a way that will effectively give us space to do oversight in that score as part of just putting that mapping in practice, and it can be assessed in that score. So thanks for making time, Prof, and we're really looking forward to you making time again next year, and would encourage members to participate. You can be guaranteed that those difficult questions that have been asked this time around, these programs that we have been attending cannot be excluded from that contribution. They've contributed a lot, and would know that when you ask questions, at least there's some foregrounding that we use to inform the questions we ask, and we're looking forward to that next year. Thank you. Good night to everyone.
Good night. Good night, everyone. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, Lucy.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Good night.